let the other people come. In the meantime, if you have any question, you can ask. हाँ जी, क्या करा दूँ? हाँ हाँ, नंबर बताओ कौन सा? आप ट्रिकल डाउन वाला देखिए. शी इज आस्किंग ए क्वेश्चन नंबर 12. Question number, you have the list of questions, all of you. Have the question list or not? Compare the trickle down. पढ़ो जरा इसे. क्या क्वेश्चन है, पढ़ो.
Strategies of trickle down growth.
क्वेश्चन ये है कि you have to compare the trickle down approach and the inclusive growth, and why inclusive growth is preferred to trickle down. That is the question. अब ये है कि most of you are not aware of what is the trickle down. What is trickle down effect? When we started our development process in 1950s, it was assumed that as the economy will grow, the benefits of the growth will automatically flow down to all the sections of the society. Automatically. Means the mechanism will be developed automatically in the society so that the benefits of growth flow automatically to all the sections automatically. Every will get the benefit of the growth. That was the assumption. And this assumption is called the trickle down. This kind of assumption made in the beginning of the development process is called the trickle down theory. In 50, when we started the development process, particularly from second 5-year plan, it was assumed that let the government develop the large industrial projects and the benefits out of these projects will flow down automatically to all the sections of the society. It means some institutions or mechanisms will be developed in the economy which will lead the distribution of the benefit equitably to all sections of the society. If that is the assumption made, then this is called trickle down. We assume that the benefits will trickle down to all the sections automatically. Clear? Inclusive growth is not automatic. Inclusive growth, as we have defined, is a comprehensive growth, broad-based growth, which is defined as a participative as well as shared growth. This is not automatic. We have to achieve the comprehensive growth, we have to achieve the shared growth, we have to achieve the participative growth. Therefore, these are two different terms. Why inclusive growth is preferred? Because inclusive growth requires the specific policy actions to make the growth comprehensive, broad-based. That is, all sectors should contribute to the development process, one, and two, that all persons in the working age group, if they are willing to work, they get the job at the given market wage rate, then it is a participative. And if the benefits of the growth are reaching to everyone equitably according to their skills and capabilities, then it is shared growth. So therefore, we have to plan to achieve the inclusive growth. It is not automatic. That's why this is preferred. This is preferred. It requires the specific policy actions to make it a comprehensive, to make it participative, and to make it shared growth. ये डिफरेंस हाईलाइट करना है इसमें, ठीक है. लेकिन मैं आपसे फिर सिंसियरली सबसे रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ कि व्हाट वी डिस्कस इन द क्लास, डोंट इग्नोर दैट, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली दैट हैज़ टू बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. अब आप मुझे अगर आंसर लिख के दोगे इधर उधर टेक्स्ट बुक से उठा के, दैट इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेड. that I will not agree, because that is a different kind of books, and UPSC requires a different kind of answers. Clear? You have to establish the link between what is asked and what you are writing. और वो लिंक नहीं है तो नंबर नहीं मिलेंगे. अगर आपने आंसर उठा के लिख दिया which is not establishing the link, what is being asked in the question and what answer you have given, then you will not get the marks. The answer have to be very cohesive, systematic and to the point asked in the question. ठीक है, उसमें से भी आप थोड़ा भी इधर उधर भटक गए तो क्वेश्चन जो है आपके हाथ से निकल जाएगा. इस चीज़ का मैंने क्वेश्चन देखा, आपने पॉइंट तो सारे कवर करने की कोशिश की है, बट इट इज़ नॉट सिस्टमेटिक, क्योंकि अनलेस यू मेक इट ए कोहेसिव एंड सिस्टमेटिक, आंसर विल नॉट बी लूसिड, इट विल नॉट अट्रैक्ट द गुड मार्क्स. यही आर्ट ऑफ राइटिंग है आंसर्स की. मटेरियल सबके पास है, उस मटेरियल को 200 वर्ड्स में हाउ टू राइट इट कोहेसिवली एंड सिस्टमेटिकली, so that the examiner, once you read your answer, he understands what you have started and where you have reached and what you want to say. अगर वो क्लियरली नहीं आगे आपके आंसर से रिफ्लेक्ट हो गया तो आपको नंबर मिल जाएंगे. अगर आपने हेफाजत आंसर लिख दिया, कहीं डेफिनेशन लिख दी, कहीं कंपोनेंट लिख दिए, कहीं मेजर लिख दिए, मेजर्स को आपने अपने सजेशन लिख दिए, तो फिर वो नंबर नहीं मिले, नहीं विल नॉट गेट द मार्क्स. जैसे पूजा ने लिखा है, जो मेजर्स इसने लिखे हैं वो सारे मेजर्स तो ऑलरेडी अंडर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है. दे आर नॉट द सजेशंस मेड बाय यू, ऑलरेडी अंडर इम्प्लीमेंट. वो आर्टिकल लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो तो प्रोविजंस हैं. दैट प्रोविजन हैज़ टू बी एनफोर्स्ड, बट एनफोर्स थ्रू व्हाट? एनफोर्स थ्रू स्कीम्स एंड प्रोग्राम्स. वो इम्पॉर्टेंट है, रादर देन कोटिंग द पर्टिकुलर प्रोविजंस ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट. ठीक है ना, आपने है आर्टिकल्स हम लिखे हैं आपने आर्टिकल 25 में, तो वो आर्टिकल के बेस पे ठीक है. आपने आर्टिकल 21, आर्टिकल 28, 38 टू आर्टिकल 37, ये आर्टिकल इज नॉट सो इम्पॉर्टेंट. इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि इन बेस्ड ऑन दीज आर्टिकल्स व्हाट स्कीम्स प्रोग्राम्स इंट्रोड्यूस बाय द गवर्नमेंट, वो इम्पॉर्टेंट है. दीज आर्टिकल्स ओनली प्रोवाइड्स डायरेक्शंस टू द गवर्नमेंट. Directive Principles of State Policy, starting from 37 to 51, they provide the directions to the government for implementing various schemes and programs, satisfying the content of these provisions. आपको अपने आंसर में आर्टिकल लिखने की जरूरत नहीं, but based on these articles, what programs have been introduced by the government, that is important. ठीक है, ये अपना आंसर है. मैं इसमें कमेंट्स नहीं लिखे, so I only highlighted the problems you are facing. ठीक है, ये मैं देख के. Anyway, let's finish it today. We have already discussed the national income in detail, the concept of GDP, concept of GNP, etc. we have discussed. And we have also discussed theoretically how the GDP is measured. How the GDP is measured. Today, I am highlighting certain methodological issues in estimation of GDP in India. Estimation of GDP in India. Why it has become important? Because the latest revision made by the government in 2015 has become controversial. Therefore, many of the economists and the other authors, they started questioning the methodology adopted by the government in estimation of the GDP. That controversy you need to understand. What is that controversy? Controversial solution अभी नहीं आया है, but to address the controversy, government has set up a high-level committee to address the controversy. But as a student or as an aspirant in civil services, we must know what is the new methodology adopted by the government in 2015 for estimation of the GDP. ये मैं आपको समझाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. ये आपको कहीं बॉक्स में मिलेगा नहीं, तो ध्यान से सुनो. जो पीपीटी में है, जो आपको मटेरियल सब्सिक्वेंटली हम देंगे, I am writing the chapters also in narration form. PPT में तो short में लिखा है, narration form में we are preparing, but you will get subsequently. But same thing is immediately available in the PPTs. तो ये मैं आपको I'll give it to you, but before that, the PPT तो आपके पास है ही. Let me go to the जी इस साइड पे वही सोच रहा हूँ मैं कहाँ गया. Whenever a revision is made in the estimation of GDP, two types of revisions are made in the past. यार मैंने आपको पहले बताया था GDP is first always measured at the current prices. Always. Then it is converted into base year prices. But base year prices are fixed prices. Initially, जब भी GDP estimate होगी, GDP is estimated first at the current prices. Once you know the GDP at the current prices, then it is converted into base year prices. Base year prices. Therefore, पहले we don't estimate it at the base year prices. First we estimate it at a current prices, easier to estimate. Then, given the base year prices, we convert the GDP current prices into GDP at base year prices. That we have already discussed last time. Now, whenever the revision is made, इसका पेन किधर है? अच्छा ये. Whenever the revision is made, normally revision highlighted two things. One is revision in the base year. Revision in base year. And updation of the databases. Two are basic objectives normally. Two basic objectives are there for revision. And if you look at the PPT, you will see that we revised the GDP many times in the past. You see that this slide, we have revised the GDP right from 48-49 many times till 15, and we have changed the base year. Initial base year was 48-49, then it shifted to 60-61 in 1967, then in 78 shifted to 70-71, then 1988 shifted to 80-81. Base year keep on shifting. Why we change the base year? Because over a period of time, there have been the structural changes in the economy. Takes place in the economy. So new sectors have been added, old sectors become obsolete. For example, in 80s, the IT naval services came. Earlier they were not there. Later on, the more services have come, new technology has developed. Therefore, the structure of the India's economy keep changing. And to incorporate the structural changes in the latest estimates, we revise the base year. It will be foolish if we estimate the 2015 GDP at 48-49 prices, because in 48-49, maybe a lot of the commodities which are there in the 15, they will not be there in 48-49. Therefore, we have to define a base year which incorporates the structural changes which have taken place in the economy. For example, when we shifted from 48-49 to 60-61, in 10-year period, a lot of changes take place in the India's economy. We adopted the capitalist model of development. we went for the establishment of public sector undertakings. So the structure has changed. To incorporate that structure, we have shifted the base year from 48, 49 to 60, 61. But during the 60s decade, a lot of changes took place in the economy, particularly in agriculture sector. Therefore, to incorporate those changes, we shifted the base from 60, 61 to 70, 71. So, as and when the economy indicates changes, we shift the base year. We shift the base year, and base year is shifted in such a way that it is a reflection of all the structural changes in the economy. Takes into account. Only that year will be taken as the base year. Post revision is done for revision of the base year. Last in 2015, we revised the base year from 2004-5 to 11-12. 2004-5 to 11-12. That is the last revision is taken place. 4-5 to 11-12. That is made in 2015. Thereafter, we have not made any further revision of the base year. So today, the base year is 11-12 for estimation of the GDP. For estimation of the GDP. But this is the first change. Whenever the revision takes place, we revise the base year. Second changes we normally introduce is the new databases. Because we keep collecting the data on the new areas, new databases have been created in between. And if we not substitute the old databases by the new one, it will not reflect the true picture of the economy. True picture of the economy. I will just give the example. But this is the second area of revision. The second area of revision, that is updation of databases wherever it is feasible, wherever it is possible. Databases. For example, शुरू में for example NSSO का data आया 93-94, 99-2000, 2004-5, 11-12. When we have shifted the base from 4-5 to 11-12, then we have revised the database of NSSO from 4-5 to 11-12. NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, publishes the various kinds of data after few years. They have their own plan of undertaking the service. So, as and when the new database comes, we replace the earlier one. Therefore, the second objective of revision is the updation of the databases wherever it has taken place. Third thing which is introduced in 2015 is revision in the methodology. Revision in methodology, which has not been done in the past so far. In 2015, we have revised the methodology. Why we have revised the methodology? Because in this revision, what we have done is we have tried to make the in 2015 latest in 2015. Apart from these two, third revision has taken place, that is revision in methodology. Revision in methodology. Methodology of estimation has been changed to make our system compliant with UN-SNA, United Nations System of National Accounts. To make our system UN-SNA compliant, we have revised the methodology. This revision in methodology has led to the controversy. ये समझ में आ गया कि whenever revisions are made, basically two objectives: revision of the base year and the updation of the databases wherever it is possible. But in 2015, apart from these two, we have also changed the methodology of estimation. We have changed the definition of various variables, and these definitions changes have led to the overestimation of the GDP some people claimed, that we are going to discuss. हाँ जी, इसलिए जरूरी है कि यूनाइटेड नेशन ने एक नॉर्मल सिस्टम डेवलप किया, सिस्टम ऑफ नेशनल अकाउंटिंग, which has to be followed by all the countries so that their GDP is comparable. If we are not following the UN system of national accounts, then our GDP will not be comparable with other countries. When everybody is adopting the same methodology, only then the GDP will be comparable. Only then we can say our GDP is compared with the UK, US or the other countries. If the USA is adopting a different methodology, we are adopting a different methodology, we cannot compare. We cannot compare. Therefore, make a comparison, a meaningful comparison. We adopted our methodology which is as recommended by UN system of national accounting. UN system of national accounting. जी. बाकी हाँ बाकी every country has to comply with it. We are late in complying because these guidelines came in 2008, and every country was advised by the UN system that you adopt this the common methodology for estimation of your GDP so that it becomes comparable with the others. But we adopted quite late in 2015. Therefore, we wanted to make our system UNSNA compliant. Therefore, methodology has to change. The question is what changes we have introduced. हाँ, हमने 3 मेथड पढ़े, इनकम मेथड, प्रोडक्ट मेथड, एक्सपेंडिचर मेथड, theoretically. अब which method we are adopting is important. Prior to 2015, we were adopting income method and we were calculating the GDP at factor cost. And no other country in the world is estimating the GDP at factor cost. Because the UNSNA said GDP at factor cost is not a reliable variable to estimate. And therefore, it is only India which is estimating the GDP at factor cost. And therefore, they suggested to drop this concept, GDP at factor cost. Therefore, they suggested use a new method of estimating the GDP. So, question is when we are not estimating the GDP at factor cost, what method you are adopting? Because ultimately you have to come down to a figure. This is the GDP of the country. उसके लिए you have to adopt the methodology. कौन सी method adopt करेंगे? Product method, expenditure method, income method. Earlier we were using the income method and product method. Somewhere we were using expenditure method. We are using mixture of the three. But we used to publish the GDP in 2 terms. GDP at factor cost or GDP at market prices. That is the 2 estimate we used to publish prior to 2015. And then we suggested the GDP at factor cost can be converted into GDP at market prices that we have discussed already. Now, when the UNSNA system came, they said that GDP at factor cost should be avoided or should not be taken into consideration, because nowhere in the world is estimating the GDP at factor cost. Therefore, India's concept of GDP at factor cost is not comparable with the rest of the world. Therefore, India should brought out the GDP estimates which are comparable with the rest of the world. Therefore, they suggested that instead of GDP at factor cost, you estimate the GDP at basic prices. Therefore, after 2015, we started estimating the GDP at 2 prices. One is at basic price, other is at market price. वो मैं बता रहा हूँ भैया, ठीक है? तो आपका जो क्वेश्चन है कि मेथडोलॉजी क्या है? मेथडोलॉजी है the process we follow for estimating the GDP of the country. And as I said, 3 methods are there: income method, product method, expenditure method. either of the three methods can be used. Income method is ruled out now. So we have only two methods, product method and the expenditure method. Clear? So we are using either of the two methods. But when we use the product method or expenditure method, we have to make sure that GDP is estimated at two prices. One is basic price, other is market price. So what is basic price and what is market price, that we are going to discuss. Clear? नहीं अभी तो यूँ कर रहे हो. It's clear. It is clear to everyone what we are trying to do. We are trying to explain the changes introduced in methodology of estimation of GDP since 2015. Since 2015. And this is the latest changes which are continuing even today. And therefore, we have to understand what changes we have introduced in the methodology. As I said, the first change is always there in the form of revision of base year, that we have already done. Base year has been shifted from 2004-05 to 11-12. That has been done. Second is the updation of the databases. What databases we have introduced in the new system? Updation of databases. That is important to understand what changes we have made in the databases. Because databases are important. Which database you use, accordingly the GDP figure will come. Accordingly GDP figure will come. So therefore, the first is corporate sector. Corporate sector. Corporate sector is important sector in estimation of the GDP. Prior to 2015, we were using the RBI's study outcome for taking into account the contribution of corporate sector in GDP. Prior to 2015. Prior to 2015, RBI used to conduct a study based on 2,500 companies. 2,500 companies, and they estimate the company's contribution to GDP. They estimate the contribution of 2,500 companies to GDP. RBI used to do every year. This is adopted by the CSO by extrapolating it. Extrapolation, you understand? Extrapolation? Extrapolation. A statistical term. Because RBI has taken only sample of 2,500 companies. And suppose we have a 1 lakh companies in the country. Then based on the 2,500 sample companies, we extrapolate the contribution of corporate sector for 1 lakh companies proportionately. That is the CSO used to do. अब एक ही वर्ड याद कर लो GS के लिए, extrapolation. CSO extrapolation मतलब projection, extrapolation, POAL, extrapolation. Extrapolation based on the RBI study, which is based on the contribution of 2,500 companies to contribution to GDP. CSO used to extrapolate this figure for all the companies. Suppose it comes to be 100, we have 1 lakh companies. They will make it a 4 times. They will make it a 4 times. 2500 से आप बढ़ा दिया आगे, 4 times बढ़ा दिया, depending upon the number of companies available in the country. So CSO used to extrapolate. This was done prior to 2015. What we have done in after 2015, ये important है. After 2015, we started using the data published by MCA 21. program. What is MCA 21? ये क्वेश्चन आ चुका है प्रीलिम में. MCA 21 program. MCA means Ministry of Corporate Affairs. MCA means Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And 21 is a digitization program. Ministry of Corporate Affairs, right from 2008-9 onwards, have asked all the registered companies to submit their balance sheet and the profit and loss account in digital form to the registrar of the companies. And in the new methodology after 2015, we, instead of using the RBI studies outcome, we directly started using the balance sheet and profit and loss account, all the registered companies which have submitted their digital format to the registrar. These are used, and this program is called MCA 21. MCA here is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and Ministry of Corporate Affairs started the digitization of the balance sheets and the profit and loss accounts, and therefore all the registered companies are compulsorily have to submit their databases to the registrar of the companies in the digital form. And that data is transferred to CSO, and now CSO is directly using the data published by companies in their balance sheet and profit and loss. Getting your point? Therefore, instead of 2,500 companies study based, and based on that we used to extrapolate for the other companies. Now the CSO is directly using the data of around 5 lakh companies, which are submitting their balance sheet and profit and loss to the registrar. Getting on, this is a very, very important change. Very, very important change. It has enhanced the contribution of corporate sector. It has enhanced the contribution of corporate sector to GDP. Earlier, it was only estimated figure. Now we are using the direct figure of the production or value of production shown by the company in their balance sheet, and the figure is taken from there, and the CSO started using this figure in assessing the contribution of corporate sector in GDP. First major change introduced. Getting a point, this is a major change. ये समझ में आ गया? मेंस में भी कई बार क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया जाता है कि व्हाट चेंजेस इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन मेथोडोलॉजी आफ्टर 2015. So first change is always there, that is revision of base year. There is a routine method, and databases changed by the government we are discussing here. ठीक है, this is clear to everyone. तो दोबारा बताऊं. देखिए क्वेश्चन ये है कि जीडीपी क्या है? जीडीपी से कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ वेरियस सेक्टर्स इन द इकोनॉमी, उसी का समीशन तो है, वो हमने डिस्कस किया. दैट इज द समीशन ऑफ ऑल द सेक्टर्स टुगेदर विल गिव यू द जीडीपी ऑफ द इकोनॉमी. अब क्वेश्चन ये है कि हर सेक्टर का कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन के लिए डाटा चाहिए आपको. विदाउट डाटा यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू assess the contribution of a particular sector. So what changes we have introduced since 2015? The major changes introduced in case of corporate sector. In case of corporate sector, earlier we used to estimate the contribution of corporate sector based on the RBI based study. RBI's study, which is based on the sample 2,500 companies. And based on that, CSO used to extrapolate for the other companies and used to incorporate the share of corporate sector in GDP. But that was only a rough estimation. Now to have an actual contribution of corporate sector, the MCA 21 program which is adopted by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, is giving you the direct figure of the contribution of various companies which are registered. Mind, this is registered companies only. Registered companies only. Registered companies are giving the direct figure of their production, and that figure is used by the CSO in assessing the contribution of corporate sector. और कैसे करते हैं, क्या टेक्निकलिटी, उसमें आपको जाने की जरूरत नहीं. जितनी अंग्रेजी में बोल रहा हूँ उतनी अंग्रेजी आपको समझनी है बस. You don't have to go into the technicalities of that. There is a technicalities involved. Some statistical methods are involved. उसमें आपको जाने की जरूरत नहीं, क्योंकि जीएस के पेपर में उसकी जरूरत नहीं है. जीएस के पेपर में you have to understand the concept, what changes we have introduced. The first is the database of corporate sector has been broadened by the government. Now, instead of taking the outcome of the 2500 companies which RBI used to publish, now we are taking directly the value of production or production of 5 lakh companies directly. And 5 lakh companies are registered companies which are submitting their balance sheets and the profit and loss account to registrar of the company. So this is digital form data that is transferred to CSO, and CSO has imported the relevant figures for estimating the share of corporate sector in the GDP. Is clear? First change? First change is clear? पहले केस में ना रफी फिगर तो पता लगेगी आपको. आरबीआई की स्टडी तो 2500 कंपनी के बेस पे है. एमसीयू में एक्चुअल फिगर पता लग जाएगी ना भाई. जो ऑडिटेड अकाउंट सबमिट कर रहा है, इसका मतलब दी आपकी बैलेंस शीट एंड प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस both are audited by chartered accountant, and that soft copy is submitted with the registrar of companies. नहीं, assumption जो लिखते हैं वो अपनी बैलेंस शीट में, वो CSO counts. CSO takes into consideration what assumption they have made in making the assessment, because ultimately it's a computerized program now. It's very easy to find out. It is not a manual program. Now it's a computerized program. All the data is available in the digital form, and CSO can find out the basic assumption made by a particular company in their balance sheet or in the profit and loss account. अगर जरूरत पड़ेगी तो CSO may ignore that. But that is the CSO's decision. But CSO के पास तो direct data available है. How much the corporate sector has produced, the total value of output in a given year, that data is available directly with the CSO. That is used for assessing the share of corporate sector in the GDP. ये ठीक है, ये समझ में आ गया सबको. First changes, there is important change made the database. The second changes made in the database is the trade. That is the trade, real trade, wholesale trade, because most of the activity in India is trading. Manufacturing units are very less, but traders are very large numbers. और देखो सारे बाजार जितने भी हैं आपके ट्रेड हैं, they are only trading. Manufacturing is very, very less. Maybe your 10-12 companies are manufacturing the air conditioners, but traders are so many in the market. Therefore, what the traders have added value to the output, because we only take the value addition. By definition, we only take the value addition in GDP. Therefore, traders' contribution earlier we used to measure in the form of number of employees employed by the particular trading firm. Earlier the share of the trading firm was estimated with the help of the number of employees engaged in that particular firm. But later on, when the digitization has been done and all the firms have to submit their sales tax returns, now GST returns, they have to submit every monthly, quarterly and annually. all the returns have to submit by the traders. Based on these returns, we can find out the value addition by the traders. What is the value added by the traders in selling the product in the market? मैन्युफैक्चरर से आया, होलसेलर के पास आया, होलसेलर से रिटेलर के पास आया, रिटेलर से कंज्यूमर से खरीदा. Every stage we are adding the value. Every stage we are adding the value. But how do we know what is the value addition? Value addition will be reflected in the returns. Earlier they were filing sales tax returns. Now they are filing the GST returns. After 2017, GST was introduced. Therefore, GST returns, every firm is filing. Every trader is filing monthly, quarterly, half yearly and annual. 4 returns they have to file. And out of these returns, the CSO find out what is the value addition. Therefore, the trader's contribution is also enhanced by using the digital form of the returns submitted by them in the form of GST returns today. Getting my point? Is clear? Third change which is introduced was contribution of traders. देखिए ट्रेडिंग एक्टिविटी में क्या है? ट्रेडिंग एक्टिविटी में ओनली प्रोडक्ट इज चेंजिंग द हैंड्स. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट से किसने खरीदा? होलसेलर ने खरीदा. होलसेलर ने कुछ वैल्यू ऐड की एंड सोल्ड टू रिटेलर्स, रिटेल ट्रेडर्स. रिटेल ट्रेडर्स हैव डायरेक्टली सोल्ड टू द कंज्यूमर. At every stage value is added. They are not selling at the same price. The wholesale price, it cannot be same at the retail price. At every stage the value is added. But how do we know what value addition is there? Earlier we didn't have any mechanism to know how much value addition was there. Therefore, in the earlier methodology prior to 2015, we used to find out how many workers are engaged in a particular trading firm, and based on the wages paid to them, we used to find out the value addition. So that was a very rough method, but we didn't have any other alternative. But after the digitization of the all records, earlier they used to file the sales tax returns. 15 से 17 तक they used to file sales tax returns, and after 17 when GST was adopted, they are started filing GST returns. In GST returns, they are indicating the monthly sale, quarterly sale, half yearly sale, annual sale, and you also indicate the input bought by you. So input credit lene hai, so you have to indicate the input bought by you. So therefore, they indicate how much we have bought and how much we have sold. What is the difference? That is the value addition. That is the value addition. Therefore, now CSO easily calculate the value addition in the trading activity, which was very difficult earlier. Which was very, very difficult earlier. Third change which was introduced was the contribution of autonomous or local bodies. Autonomous and local bodies. What is local body? Local bodies is, for example, Panchayati Raj institutions, municipal corporations. These are the local bodies. There are some autonomous institutions which are, let's say, IIMs, IITs. They are autonomous. Autonomous institutions and the local bodies, their contribution also have to be assessed. Earlier, we used to collect the data only from 4 states on local bodies and autonomous. Earlier, prior to 2015, that is Delhi, Meghalaya, UP and Himachal Pradesh. 4 states se data aata tha, and we used to extrapolate for the other states based on that. That was a very rough kind of estimation. Now in the revised methodology, we pick up all autonomous bodies and the local bodies which receive 60% of the grant from the government. All local bodies and autonomous bodies receiving 60% grant from the government are incorporated in assessing their contribution to GDP. This is a major change introduced. Earlier we used to collect the data only from 4 states. 4 स्टेट भी कौन से थे? दिल्ली, मेघालय, हिमाचल प्रदेश, यूपी. मेघालय, हिमाचल में तो कुछ है ही नहीं. Therefore, in earlier case, the contribution of autonomous and local bodies was underestimated, grossly underestimated. Now we are taking into account all the autonomous bodies and local bodies which receive up to 60% of their total income as a grant from the government. As a grant from the government. All are included. Therefore, the database of autonomous and local bodies have announced. Database of local bodies and autonomous bodies announced. In the revised methodology, we have changed the database for autonomous and local bodies. In the revised methodology, we started taking into account all the autonomous bodies and local bodies which receive 60% of the government grant in their normal process and in their normal functioning, because इनकी कोई income तो ज़्यादा है नहीं. They receive the grants from the government. जी, of their total income is received as a grant from the government. All are included. As a result, we are now including the lakhs of the autonomous bodies and local bodies in assessing their contribution to GDP. The third major database has been changed. Besides that, जी, benefit ये है कि पहले हम इनके एस्टिमेशन को अंडर एस्टिमेट कर रहे थे, और जो आपको एक्चुअल डाटा अवेलेबल है तो इनका एक्चुअल डाटा यूज़ करेंगे तो इनका कंट्रीब्यूशन बढ़ जाएगा ना. पहले तो सिर्फ एक एस्टिमेशन था. और मान लिया दिल्ली, मेघालय, हिमाचल प्रदेश, यूपी में इनका कंट्रीब्यूशन कम है तो आप बाकी सबका भी कम ही लोगे क्योंकि आप एक्स्ट्रापोलेट दूसरे बेस पे कर रहे हो. तो देयर कंट्रीब्यूशन इज अंडर एस्टिमेटेड in the earlier case. When you are taking directly all the autonomous bodies, all the local bodies which are receiving at least 60% of the grants from the government, they are counted in the assessment of their contribution to GDP. ये सब लिखा हुआ है पीपीटी में, लेकिन आप समझ लो. वो तो पीपीटी में एक लाइन में लिखा है तो आपको समझ में आने में दिक्कत होगी. You try to understand this. ठीक है. Apart from that, the various new surveys have come. NSSO, as I said, NSSO has come out with a new survey. NSSO has come out 11-12 survey. That is taken into account. Earlier NSSO survey was 2004-05 and we have revised the NSSO survey. What NSSO survey gives you? What kind of data they gives you? They gives you the consumption expenditure. NSSO survey gives you the income bracket wise consumption expenditure of the households. Therefore, the household consumption expenditure as brought out by the NSSO 11-12 is counted in 2015 estimate. Therefore, wherever the revision has been done, that is counted in the 2015. Databases have been enlarged significantly. And what is the controversy then? The controversy has been on account of 2-3 important things. When we use the methodology, we have defined, we have changed some definitions. What definitions we have changed? That has become controversial. One is obviously in compliance to the UNSNA, we started estimating GDP at 1, the basic prices and market price. That is as per the compliance of the UNSNA. This change has been introduced in compliance with UNSNA. Earlier, we were calculating, instead of basic price, we were calculating at factor cost. Earlier we were calculating at this. This is now ruled out. UNSNA has ruled out this method. They said nowhere in the world except India is estimating the GDP at factor cost. They suggested India to move from the GDP at factor cost to GDP at basic prices. But question is, what is basic price? What is market price? Anybody, any idea? What is basic price and what is market price? Ji? बेस ईयर प्राइस नहीं बोल रहा मैं, बेसिक प्राइस बोल रहा हूँ.
The market, that is the basic price of that particular unit, of the single unit. And the market price is that the price which is the selling price in the market for the people. After GST, after tax, after everything.
कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे बेसिक प्राइस? So you are a CSO man.
Yes, sir.
And you are asked to calculate the GDP at basic price. How will you define the basic price?
Sir, the price which is used by the company for making a product, for making a one single product, like labor, transport, and the raw material, all the three things.
ये तो फैक्टर कॉस्ट ही है.
Yes, sir.
ये फैक्टर कॉस्ट हो गई ना?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
फैक्टर कॉस्ट तो हम हटा ही रहे हैं.
Basic price.
Factor cost we are removing. Factor cost we are removing. Because we are not calculating GDP at factor cost now. We are calculating GDP at basic price and GDP at market price. My market price, you know, we have discussed in detail. My question is, what is the basic price? नहीं, फिगर में कैसे निकालोगे? मैं सिर्फ ये पूछ रहा हूँ भाई. अल्टीमेटली यू हैव टू हैव ए फिगर. जीडीपी इज नथिंग बट ए फिगर. यू हैव टू कन्वर्ट एवरीथिंग इनटू फिगर. अगर फिगर में कन्वर्ट नहीं कर सकते वो जीडीपी में काउंट नहीं होगी. वो जीडीपी में काउंट नहीं होगी. जैसे मैंने लास्ट टाइम जब बताया था आपको, एनी सर्विस विच डजंट इन्वॉल्व एनी ट्रांजेक्शन ऑफ मनी विल नॉट बी काउंटेड इन जीडीपी. If you are doing a social work, that will not be counted in GDP. Housewives doing their house chorus at home, not counted in GDP. If anything doesn't involve economic transaction, it will not be counted in GDP. So therefore, we have to define here how it is converted into economic transaction. Now, so how do we do normally? Normally जो indirect taxes है, normally indirect taxes net of subsidies. तो subsidies भी देती है सरकार, subsidies भी देती है. Indirect taxes net of subsidies are classified under two categories. First, those which are imposed on the production of a company. That is one. Second, on the product. And this distinction has to be understood. As he is saying, if whatever is, what taxes or subsidies are given to you during the process of production, that is till the output comes out of the factory gate, is considered to be production. Is considered to be production. ऐसे हम इसमें क्या करते थे, लैंड लेबर कैपिटल एंटरप्रेन्योर इनका इनकम काउंट कर लिया, फैक्टर कॉस्ट हो गया. What we are doing now is whatever taxes imposed in the production process. For example, you have bought the land, you may bought the stamp duty, some fee must have given to the registrar. These are the taxes imposed on you. If you are employed a very highly skilled worker, professional taxes to be paid. That is the tax paid during the process of production. During the process of production. But at the same time, government also gives subsidies. For example, government is giving subsidies to railways, subsidies to fertilizers, subsidies to the farmers. These subsidies are also be counted. So indirect taxes, net of subsidies will have to be taken in all the production units. All the production units. And therefore, we have to find out how much indirect tax is paid by a company during the process of production. During the process of production. अभी इस पे कोई एक्साइज नहीं लगी है, कोई जीएसटी नहीं लगी है. अभी वो टैक्सेस काउंट कर रहे हैं हम which the producer has to pay during the process of production. जैसे मैंने एग्जांपल दिया आपको, even if you are buying the property, you have to spend a lot of money in buying the stamp duty papers. You have to pay the registrar fee. You have to pay the professional tax if you are employing highly skilled workers. Therefore, all these taxes are paid during the process of production. They are counted here. They are counted here. Therefore, factor cost plus all these indirect taxes, net of subsidies is called basic price. Is called basic price. BP is called basic price. Is called basic price. Earlier we were not incorporating the indirect taxes or subsidies received during the process of production. We were only counting the factor cost. Only counting the factor cost. As a result, the GDP at factor cost is underestimated. Underestimated. And therefore, the UN SNA says there is no concept of factor cost everywhere, anywhere in the world. You have to use the basic price. And basic price incorporates all the taxes, indirect taxes, paid by the producer during the process of production. During the process of production. Once the production is done, now it comes out of the factory gate. Now at factory gate, when it comes, it becomes product. It becomes product. And the moment it comes out from the factory gate, excise duty or GST is imposed. As per the government order, GST is imposed. GST is imposed. GST is imposed. And that has become the market price. Initially, the GST is to be paid by wholesale producers, then it is transferred to retail, and therefore the production cost, that is basic price plus GST and any other taxes imposed by the local government will give you the market price. Will give you the market price. For example, in case of oil, petroleum, central government imposes the excise duties. What is goes to the state also impose on this sales tax. क्योंकि अभी पेट्रोलियम GST के एम्बिट में नहीं है. They are free to impose sales tax. Every and different states have the different rates of sales tax. And therefore, in each state, the petrol price is different. Why it is different? Because the different states are imposing different rates of sales taxes on the petroleum, and this is how the market price is attained. So market price is basic price plus the GST imposed by the central government and plus any local taxes if any. हर प्रोडक्ट पे लोकल टैक्स नहीं है, कुछ ही प्रोडक्ट हैं जो अभी GST के एम्बिट में नहीं है, जैसे गोल्ड है नहीं है, पेट्रोलियम नहीं है, लोकल टैक्सेस आर इम्पोज्ड। हाँ जी, नहीं ऐसा ना, जब रिफाइनरी से पेट्रोल आया तो वहाँ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने अपनी एक्साइज लगा दी, एक्साइज से गवर्नमेंट ने एक्साइज लगाई से 39%, 39 रुपीज़ ऐड कर दी उसमें। नाउ द स्टेट्स आर बाइंग इट विद द एक्साइज ड्यूटी। अब स्टेट्स को अपने जुरिस्डिक्शन में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है पेट्रोल प्रोडक्ट्स। व्हाट दे डू इज दे इम्पोज सेल्स टैक्स ऑन दैट, because the petroleum products are still out of the GST. They are free to impose any sales tax and they impose the sales tax. तो अब किसी पर्टिकुलर स्टेट में जो पेट्रोल का प्राइस आया वो क्या आया, वो आया द बेसिक प्राइस प्लस एक्साइज ड्यूटी इम्पोज बाय द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट प्लस लोकल टैक्सेस इम्पोज बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. That will give you the market price of that product in that particular area. So therefore, in the revised methodology, we estimate the GDP both at the basic price and the market price, and then we convert the market price into base year prices. Like नहीं, if wholesaler has done some expenditure, may in packaging or in transportation, that will add to it. That will be added to it. Whatever the addition is made at each level will be added. Here we are talking about the taxes. So you have to differentiate between the basic price and market price. हाँ जी, जी तभी तो मैंने वर्ड यूज किया, एक जगह प्रोडक्शन एक जगह प्रोडक्ट्स. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस इम्पोज्ड ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. अभी तक प्रोडक्ट फाइनल प्रोडक्ट बना नहीं, मार्केट में आया नहीं, बट द प्रोड्यूसर और कंपनी हैज़ ऑलरेडी पेड many taxes to the government. Earlier we never used to count these taxes. Earlier we only counted the factor cost. How much is the capital used, how much is the land used, how much is the labor used, and what is the expected profit of the entrepreneur. That we used to do earlier. And therefore, any taxes paid, any subsidy received were not counted in estimating the actual cost of production at the production stage. Now it is counted. Now we have started counting any taxes paid by the company or producer at the production stage. Any tax paid by him or any subsidy received by him is also counted. We take the net of that taxes. जी नहीं, लैंड लेबर और इनकी कॉस्ट तो पहले भी थी. अब हम जैसे मैं लिखा ना यहाँ पे, क्या लिखा है, बेसिक प्राइस, फैक्टर कॉस्ट तो है ही है, प्लस उस पर हमने इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स नेट ऑफ सब्सिडी ऐड कर दिया, कॉस्ट, दैट बिकम द बेसिक प्राइस. फैक्टर कॉस्ट पहले भी हम कैलकुलेट कर रहे थे, जब हम जीडीपी एट फैक्टर को निकाल रहे थे तब भी हम फैक्टर कॉस्ट कैलकुलेट कर रहे थे. नाउ व्हाट वी हैव डन नाउ इज we have added over and above that the taxes net of subsidies paid by the company during the process of production. ये आपको हमेशा ध्यान रखना, during the process of production, the product has not come out for sale in the market. Moment it come out for sale in the market, it will attract the GST or excise duties as the case may be. And once the GST or excise duty is imposed and the other expenditure done by the wholesalers or retailers are added, it will give you the market price. It will give you the market price. Indirect taxes minus subsidies, that is called net. Excise तो मतलब इसलिए यूज़ किया है कि only very few committees are still not the part of the GST. Those who are part of the GST, only GST is imposed. No, either GST or excise duty. अगर जो ऑलरेडी जीएसटी के एम्बिट में है तो जीएसटी लगेगा, उसमें एक्साइज का कोई मतलब नहीं है. और जब जीएसटी लगाते हैं, आप देखा होगा दो तरह की जीएसटी लगती है, टीजीएसटी और एसजीएसटी. स्टेट के लिए भी और आपके लिए बराबर होती है वो 50-50%. और जो इंटर स्टेट ट्रांसफर्स हैं उनके ऊपर क्या लगाते हैं? आईजीएसटी integrated. So therefore, the three types of GSTs we have defined. So whenever GST is imposed on any product, it will comprise state share as well as central share. But this is imposed and collected by the center, and then it is distributed to states. Earlier, the sales tax was collected by the states themselves. Now the states are dependent on the central government to transfer the GST revenue to them. That's why conflict है GST को लेके, but not necessarily on the share of GST returns. क्योंकि central government काफ़ी promptly sharing the state share of GST in the GST returns collected by them. वहाँ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जीएसटी रिप्लेस होने से स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का रेवेन्यू कम हो गया. वो कंट्रोवर्सी है. Earlier they were imposing sales tax as per their requirement. Now they are not supposed to impose any sales tax. Then they have to confine to GST returns or GST revenue. GST revenue is not sufficient to meet their financial needs. That is the controversy comes. Here the controversy comes. तो जब GST इंट्रोड्यूस किया था हमने, तो हम स्टेट्स को प्रॉमिस किए थे कि आपका रेवेन्यू हर साल 15% बढ़ेगा और ये मान के हम आपको GST रेवेन्यू विल ट्रांसफर टू यू. बट दैट हैज़ नॉट हैपेंड. Therefore, the state revenue has not increased at the rate of 15% per annum. And therefore, the states are shouting, our revenue is reduced, our financial requirement is more, where we shall bring the money. Therefore, they are going for debt. That is the major problem of the states. Problem state central state relation करेंगे fiscal economics में. I'll explain to you how it happens. But here the important point is the estimation of GDP at basic price and market price. ये clear है सबको? The controversial things I have kept in the last. What are the controversial things the government has done? One is, अब मैं वो point ले रहा हूँ जो controversial है. अब तक कोई controversy नहीं है. Controversial points which was introduced in the new methodology. One is the definition of enterprise. Definition of enterprise has been changed. Definition of enterprise has been changed. Earlier we used to call it establishment. In earlier methodology, we used to call establishment. When we call it establishment, we are concerned with the geographical location of the unit. अगर मान लिया कोई फैक्ट्री, कोई यूनिट किसी पर्टिकुलर स्टेट में लोकेटेड है, दैट इज काउंटेड इंडिपेंडेंट यूनिट. उसका आउटपुट इज टेकन इन द जीडीपी इंडिपेंडेंटली. What this new methodology has done, suppose we have a company which has so many plants in different states, and they are headquartered maybe in Mumbai, maybe in Delhi or Gurgaon or somewhere. Now in the enterprise concept, we are taking into account the expenditure done by the headquarter along with the expenditure done by the independent units. Getting a point? Suppose एक कंपनी है जिसकी 5 ब्रांचेज हैं, जैसे हुंडई है, 3-4 प्लांट खोल दिए उन्होंने. हेडक्वार्टर सपोज इन गुड़गांव. नाउ द हेडक्वार्टर इज डूइंग सेंट्रली फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग ऑल द प्लांट्स. दे आर डूइंग एडवर्टीजमेंट एट द सेंट्रल प्लेस and any other service which can be done centrally, they are doing it. The independent units are only confining to the physical production and reporting to the headquarter. In this much we have produced. Earlier we were incorporating the output produced by each unit independently. 5 यूनिट है तो 5 का अलग अलग हम काउंट करेंगे. In the new system, we are counting it is one enterprise, headquarter plus 4 units. As a result, the contribution of the enterprise has inflated because the central accounting function, central finance function, central advertisement function were not counted earlier, which were undertaken by the headquarter. Now they are also counted. As a result, the contribution of the enterprise in GDP has enhanced. First, and this is the controversial, it has become controversial. Definition of enterprise has been changed. Definition of enterprise has been changed. We are counting this as one enterprise, maybe having 5 units, 10 units, 15 units. We are counting it as one enterprise. Earlier it was 10 enterprises separately. We are counting the production of each enterprise separately. Now we are integrating all the 10 units or 5 units plus the expenditure activity undertaken by the headquarter is also counted, which is added over and above the value of production of the units. And जी नहीं, डिफरेंस ये है ना, पहले आपने सपोज एक यूनिट का प्रोडक्शन लिया, सपोज यूनिट काम कर रही है लखनऊ में, आपने उसका प्रोडक्शन काउंट कर लिया और जीडीपी में इनकॉर्पोरेट कर लिया. दैट इज एस्टैब्लिशमेंट अप्रोच, because you are concerned with the geographical location of the unit. Now, geographical location is replaced by the enterprise concept, where all the units, if they are linked with each other and controlled by a single holding company, then they are considered as a one enterprise. One enterprise. एग्जाम्पल बताया ना मैंने आपको. सपोज आपका BHEL है, BHEL की 15 यूनिट्स हैं, डिफरेंट स्टेट्स में फंक्शन कर रही हैं. अर्लियर हम हर एक यूनिट को अलग अलग इंडिपेंडेंट मान के उसका आउटपुट काउंट कर लेते थे एस्टेब्लिशमेंट अप्रोच में. नाउ वी आर काउंटिंग ऑल द 15 यूनिट्स आउटपुट टुगेदर एंड ऑल्सो द एक्सपेंडिचर डन बाय द हेडक्वार्टर BHEL in Delhi. And in most of the cases, or in all the cases, some of the functions are done centrally by the enterprise. वो इकोनॉमिकल है, एक ही एडवर्टीजमेंट देना है सबका, एक ही आपको अकाउंटिंग फंक्शन करना है, एक ही जगह आपने अकाउंट्स मेंटेन कर लिए. एक ही जगह फाइनेंस लोन लेना है, एंटरप्राइज ने ले लिया एंड गिवन टू द डिफरेंट यूनिट्स. These functions are done by the headquarter normally. Earlier we were not taking this into consideration. In the revised methodology, we are defining the enterprise as integrated units of the companies which are controlled by a single holding company. है? हाँ, लेकिन अलग अलग क्यों बनाएगी? अलग अलग बनाएगी भी कंट्रोल्ड बाय द वन. मान लिया एक इनपुट बना रही है, एक फाइनल आउटपुट बना रही है, but they are controlled by the one headquarter. They are controlled by the one headquarter, and therefore the data given by the headquarter is taken into consideration while contributing that enterprise share in the GDP. This change has been made, and this has inflated the value of corporate sector. Inflated the value of corporate sector. Second controversial thing which we have made is the informal sector. Informal sector, particularly in the production area. Formal. As I mentioned last time that we have a very large size of informal sector. Maybe in the industrial manufacturing. Large size of informal sector. 90% is informal, only 10% is formal. And it is very difficult to estimate or assess the value of output of the informal sector because they do not maintain the accurate accounts. Their accounts are not audited. Very difficult. What in the revised methodology we assume जिस रेट पे ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर राइज कर रहा है, we assume at the same rate informal sector is also rising or producing. The manufacturing organized is increasing at the rate of 8% per annum. We assume that informal sector of manufacturing is also increasing at the rate of 8%. As a result, the share of informal sector is also inflated. Not necessarily that the informal manufacturing sector is increasing at the same rate at which organized sector is increasing. Getting a point? It is not necessary, or normally it is never necessary, that the rate at which organized manufacturing sector is increasing or the rate at which they are performing at the same rate is counter informal sector is producing, not necessary. But for making a imputation, जैसे मैंने कहा लास्ट टाइम बताया था आपको, जहाँ जहाँ डेटा अवेलेबल नहीं है वहाँ we make certain assumptions to make the imputations, to make the estimations, and here we have made a very wrong assumption, and it is assumed that the rate at which organized sector is increasing or producing, at the same rate informal sector is also performing, which is wrong assumption. As a result, the share of informal sector has increased. Share of informal sector has increased. Okay. Their imputation is made. Imputation made based on manufacturing sector. Organized. Organized manufacturing sector. ठीक है. अब जिस रेट पे मारुति सुजुकी प्रोड्यूस कर रही है, उसी रेट पे we cannot assume that the informal sector which are attached to Maruti Suzuki, they are also producing. Maybe some MSME is producing the bumper, some MSME is producing the only glass, some MSME is producing only the steering. The Maruti Suzuki is assembling all the things together. So here the imputation is made based on the rate of growth of manufacturing sector that is organized. And this is a wrong assumption. Third assumption is the capital formation definition is changed. Capital formation definition is changed. Earlier, capital formation is an investment. Capital formation is an investment. It is defined as investment in plant and machinery. Prior to 2015, we defined capital formation as investment in plant and machinery. Anywhere, investment in plant and machinery. Land is also counted here. Invest in land, plant and machinery. But in the 2015, we have added two more items into this. That is biological resources we have, forest produce, or the other resources we have, natural resources we have. That is also counted as a part of the capital formation. Second, intellectual property right is also counted as a capital formation. Intellectual property right क्या है? सुना है? क्या है? Intellectual property right is if you have created something new with the application of your mind, then your right to own that commodity is protected. Your skill is protected by the government by issuing the copyright, by issuing any other right to you, and that is called intellectual property right. और आपने कोई नई चीज़ इन्वेंट की, तो आपने नया मेडिसिन को निकाला, जैसे कोविड-19 आया, नई वैक्सीनेशन आ गई. Those who have discovered the new vaccination, their right to earn over this new vaccination is protected for 20 years by all the governments in the world, as per the WTO rules. Minimum 20 years, his right to own that vaccination and earn out of it is protected. Is protected. It means how many number of patents we have issued, how number of copyrights we have issued is taken as a capital formation in the country. Capital formation in the country. Therefore, in the capital formation, two additions are made. Two additions are made. Two additions are made. One is biological resources are counted here, and second is the IPR, intellectual property rights, which has inflated the value of capital formation. Which has inflated the value of capital formation. What is the implication? Implication is larger the capital formation, larger is likely to be economic growth. That is a direct relationship. Larger the capital formation, larger is likely to be economic growth. And therefore, the value of capital formation is inflated. Any natural resource surrounding you, they are valued. Company nahi, government. Government will do it. Company nahi kari. Natural resources are not owned by the companies, but government. Because when we find out the capital formation for the country as a whole, we include corporate investment, we include household investment, we include government investment, or we include these two also. This is government. Is clear? The household expenditure pattern is also changed. Fourth change, which is very important. Household expenditure definition is changed. हाँ जी, प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आपने पहले 2013-14 तक कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन और द ग्रॉस कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन वाज अराउंड 37% ऑफ जीडीपी। 15 के बाद इट इज रिड्यूस टू 24-25%. Government was criticized on that part. Capital formation is reduced. Therefore, how the economic growth will be promoted? Therefore, to inflate the value of capital formation, they have made certain definitional changes. The first definitional changes was made in the gross capital formation of the country, where instead of only plant and machinery investment, we also started taking into account the biological resources plus intellectual property right. As a result, the quantum of capital formation has increased. And now it is today is around 29%. 24% to 29% it has increased. 5% increase in the capital formation has taken place because of a revision in the definition. देखिए, हमने चेंजेस इंट्रोड्यूस किए 2015 में बेस्ड ऑन 11/12 है। तो 2015 में जब नई मेथोडोलॉजी लेके आए तो ये चेंजेस हमने इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिए। रिवीजन ऑफ बेस ईयर किसी को कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं है। SNA से आपने कंप्लाइंट कर दिया बेसिक प्राइस मार्केट प्राइस, कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं। ऑब्जेक्शन कम्स व्हेन यू redefine some of the terms, and because of the redefinition of the terms, the value is inflated. मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा ये फिगर, value is inflated, and when value is inflated, the government started claiming that in our times GDP has increased. Actually, it has not increased. It has increased because of changes in the definition. I'll give you the figures also. The most important is the household expenditure. The gold which is held by the institutions is always counted as a part of the capital formation. Is always counted as a part of the capital formation. Gold held by the institutions like RBI or the Tirupati or many other institutions, they are holding the huge gold. That is considered as a part of the capital formation, no doubt. But the gold held by the households in the forms of gems and jewelries, that was used to be considered as their consumption expenditure earlier. हमारे देश में accumulation of jewelry is a fashion. Every woman has a lot of jewelries. Therefore, they are holding a huge jewelry with them. The accumulation of jewelry by households is considered to be consumption expenditure of the household earlier. Now, the definition has been changed. Any gold held by the households in the form of jewelries is now considered to be capital expenditure of the household, and therefore counted in the capital formation. Counted in the capital formation. Earlier, it was counted as a consumption expenditure. You see, आपको याद हो हम डिफाइन किया था जीडीपी C plus I plus G, right? Consumption expenditure, investment expenditure and government expenditure. Earlier, the expenditure done by the household on the accumulation of jewelry is considered their consumption expenditure. But in the revised definition, any accumulation done by the households in the form of jewelry is treated as their capital expenditure. And therefore, the quantum of capital expenditure has increased. Getting your point? कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर का इसलिए क्योंकि इकोनॉमिक्स में और वाइडली एक्सेप्टेड व्यू कि ग्रोथ इज ए फंक्शन ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट. ये नाम समझ जा नहीं रहा आपको, those who want to understand this, growth is a function of the two things: saving income ratio divided by the capital output ratio. This is the definition of economic growth. We don't want to enter into this economics, but here this part is important. Higher the savings, higher the growth. Higher the savings, higher the investment, and higher the investment, higher the growth. आप नीचे वाले को अभी भूल जाओ थोड़ा सा. You take this S upon Y. S is a saving. पहले आपका ज्वेलरी पे खर्चा था, वो कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर था. That was not considered to be saving. You have consumed. Now, whatever you are spending on accumulation of jewelry is counted your savings. And savings are equal to investment in equilibrium. And therefore, larger the saving, larger will be G given the K upon O. And therefore, student का क्वेश्चन है कि why इन्वेस्टमेंट करने से क्या फायदा? फायदा ये है कि इकोनॉमिक्स में higher the investment, larger will be the GDP. This is what government want to prove. In our regime after 2015, the GDP has risen more faster than the previous regime. And this is the point of controversy which has picked up by many economists and even in the government. Even in the government. Getting my point? It is clear to everyone? It is clear? नहीं. देखिए पॉइंट सब यहाँ पे इतना है, जैसे मैंने बताया इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इज मेजर्ड बाय जीडीपी. ये तो समझ में आ गया. हायर जीडीपी, हायर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. एवरी कंट्री वांट्स टू बी ऑन द हायर जीडीपी पाथ. हम नंबर 5 पे पहुँच गए. डेफिनेशन चेंज कर करके हम नंबर 5 पे पहुँच गए. We are fifth largest economy. But to reach the fifth largest economy, your saving income ratio should be around 37 to 40%. But we have reached only 29-30% so far, even after making revisions in the definitions. Even after making revisions in the definitions. And if we don't apply these revisions, our saving income ratio is hardly 24%. This is very low. We can't claim our GDP is rising at 7%. Today we are rising at 7% mainly because of the high rate of capital formation. And high rate of capital formation is shown in the GDP estimates by revising many definitions. Of course, government is investing huge money, no doubt. But despite that, the rate of capital formation is still the only 30%, which was around 37% 10 years back. And in 10 years back, our rate of growth was 8 to 9%. 2003-04 से लेके 2013-14 ये 10 साल का period is considered to be the golden period of economic history of India. 3-4 से लेके 13-14. During these 10 years, our rate of growth was 8 to 9% per annum. 8 to 9%. Our rate of growth, not GDP rate of growth. When I am saying that GDP rate of growth means rate of growth of GDP. Rate of growth of GDP was 8 to 9%. And the gross capital formation was 37%. Exports were around 25% of the GDP during this period. That was the golden period of economic growth. जब हम poverty पे जाएंगे, I will show you that during these 10 years, maximum reduction in poverty has taken place during these 10 years because we experienced a very high growth rate in the economy. But after 13-14, growth rate started falling. And the new government obviously started facing criticism. Why the growth rate is falling now? That's why some revision is made in the methodology. revision is made in the methodology. And if you see the comparison, if you see one table I have given here, the PPT, you see that in this table, you see if you apply 2012-13, 13-14, 2015 में हमने रिवाइज की methodology, we published the 12-13 and 13-14 rates, both at the old methodology as well as with the new methodology. We published both to see the comparison. And you see that in 2004-5 prices, it was 4.5%, and in 11-12 prices 4.7%, 4.9%, 5.1%. But if you apply this, ये figures are कुछ important, because of change in definition, the share of corporate sector in the savings have increased. You see that earlier it was 23%, immediately it jumped to 31%. Share of the household sector, earlier it was 72.7%, it is reduced to 63.3%. Similarly, the private sector, it has marginally increased. Because of definitional changes, share of various sectors in GDP has increased. The impact of these changes was that the share of goods sector in the GDP has increased, and share of services have fallen down. That was a major change which has occurred because of revision of this. And you see this table. This table created the controversy. If you go by 5, 6 to 11, 12, and you apply the old methodology, the rate of growth was 9.3, 9.3, 9.8, etc. एक 1 year में क्योंकि वो white fat drought का कम था. But you apply the new methodology, rate of growth has significantly changed, reduced. And this is the difference. The last column is given the difference. Application of the new methodology has led to the downward revision of earlier growth rates and upward revision of the subsequent rate of growth. This has made the controversy. At that point of time when this revision was made, Chief Economic Advisor of the Government of India, he highlighted this fact. He said that revisions made in the methodology is overestimating the GDP, and overestimating has been done up to you see that this is the data he has given. He has recalculated the GDP for some of the years after 15, and he said that actual calculated is the blue one, and in actual sense this is this color, and therefore the difference is 2.6% every year. It means GDP is overestimated by change in the methodology, particularly by revision of some definitions which are used in estimation of GDP. This controversy has spread all over the country, and hundreds of articles have published criticizing the government that you have overestimated the GDP, and overestimation is to the extent of around 2.5%. And as a result, when controversy has spread, of late now, the government has set up a high-level committee to look into this new methodology and what changes can be introduced to make it more rational and more acceptable to the public. This is the end. Clear? तो आपको मैंने इसलिए 5-6 पॉइंट बताए हैं ये ये इम्पॉर्टेंट है, कभी कभी एग्जाम में आते हैं क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की पब्लिश डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं, दीज आर नॉट दी प्राइवेट डॉक्यूमेंट्स जहाँ से डेटा उठाया मैंने आपको दी, इसलिए दीज आर इम्पॉर्टेंट। ये क्लियर है? तो GDP estimation, GDP national accounting, we have done. We have defined what is GDP, we have defined what is GNP, how it is estimated and how it is estimated in India, and what is the latest methodology we have adopted. इतना सबको क्लियर है? ठीक है? But GDP is only indicating the path of the economic growth. It is not indicating economic development. It is not indicating the economic development. Therefore, the question is, apart from economic growth, if you want to measure the economic development, then what indicators we should use? We know that economic growth and economic development. Economic growth is necessary for economic development. And when economic development is taking place, it will further enhance economic growth also. And therefore, they are reinforcing each other. But so far we have seen only GDP, and GDP is the indicator of economic growth. But what are the indicators of economic development? In economics, unless you come down to a figure, it is not comparable. Just saying कि social welfare बढ़ गया, human development हो गया, poverty कम हो गई, inequality घट गई, is not enough. We have to translate everything into some figure, and that figure has to be compared over a period of time. That figure has to be compared with other countries. And therefore, to measure the economic development or social development, we define some composite indices. We define some composite indices, composite indexes we have defined. These composite indices will try to capture the human development which have taken place subsequent to increase in economic growth. That will tell you how far economic growth is translated into economic development. And therefore, we have to develop some indices to give some idea about economic development. Economic development is a wider term. Economic development is a qualitative concept. It is concerned with the human development, welfare, access to basic minimum services. All these are there under economic development, which we have discussed. Question is, how far economic growth is translated into economic development? Economic growth ठीक है, बढ़ रही है. We are fifth largest economy of the world. But how far this fifth largest economy of the world has been able to improve human development in the country? How far? Therefore, to know this, some composite indices have been developed. And these are developed by UNDP universally. UNDP. They have developed the composite indices. And they estimate for all the countries based on the data provided by the respective countries. And they publish the report every year. Since 1990-91, the UNDP is publishing regularly every year the Human Development Index. First composite index which we shall be looking at is the HDI, Human Development Index. Human Development Index. Because ultimately, purpose of economic growth is improve the social welfare, improve the human development, improve the opportunities of the people, improve the capabilities of the people, improve the skills of the people, improve their accessibility to the basic minimum services. All these have to be given to the people by economic growth. Only then we can say economic growth is translated into economic and social development. If nothing has been changing along with the economic growth, we will say that economic growth is not translated into economic development. Clear? So, first is the Human Development Index. Human Development Index. Human Development Index developed by UNDP from 1991, and this is developed essentially on the advice of A.K. Sen. A.K. Sen is a Nobel laureate from India in economics. He suggested to develop the Human Development Index. He suggested. And he says that if you take care of the human development, the poverty, unemployment will be taken care of automatically. Government क्या करती है? Government is spending a lot of money in eradication of poverty, in poverty alleviation programs. But he says not necessary. Instead of spending a lot of money on poverty eradication, you work on the expanding the capabilities of the people. अगर आपने किसी की कैपेबिलिटी बढ़ा दी, अपने आप ही डेवलप हो जाएगा. अगर आपने किसी की कैपेबिलिटी नहीं बढ़ाई और उसको आप डोज देते जा रहे हो हर साल, जैसे PMJKY में दे रहे हैं हम, अब 5 किलो अनाज हर महीने 5 साल तक देते रहेंगे, इससे क्या होगा? पीपल आर नॉट बॉदर्ड, दे आर गेटिंग फ्री अनाज for 5 years now, and therefore we are not empowering them. We are making them slaves. We are making them slaves. So A.K. Sen says that instead of giving the dose to the people, you empower them. When he says empower them, he says you enhance their capabilities. Enhance their capabilities. They should have freedom to choose what they want to do. तो हिंदुस्तान में freedom है नहीं. Everyone should have freedom to choose what they want to do. And therefore his book is Development as Freedom. किताब का नाम ही है Development as Freedom. He says that when the capabilities of the people have improved, then there are a lot of choices before them. तो आप लोगों के सामने है. आपने एक पर्टिकुलर डिग्री हासिल कर ली, अब इंजीनियर हैं, डॉक्टर हैं, कोई भी प्रोफेशनल है या ग्रेजुएट है, अब आपके सामने बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस हैं, आप कैपेबिलिटीज आपकी बढ़ गई. नाउ यू आर इन अ पोजीशन टू चूज वेदर यू वांट टू बिकम IAS or you want to become engineer, you want to become teacher, you want to go in which area you want to go. All options are open before you, and you can choose out of the given options. It means because your capabilities have been enhanced, that's why now you have a degree of freedom to choose your occupation. अगर आपके पास कैपेबिलिटी नहीं है, आदमी प्राइमरी एजुकेशन ही है, तो क्या वो चूज करेगा? He has nothing to choose. He will be an unskilled worker somewhere. Therefore, the A.K. Sen says the capabilities have to be enhanced. When capabilities are enhanced, human development will automatically take place. And therefore, we see how this Human Development Index is calculated. When we calculate the Human Development Index, 3 variables are taken. 3 variables are taken into account. 3 variables. One is the healthy and long life. Healthy and long life for everyone. This is also called life expectancy. Life expectancy. Life expectancy. Life expectancy is the number of years a person is likely to alive if he is born in a particular country. If he is born in a particular country or particular area, that is his life expectancy. For example, in India today is 68 years. In India, the average life expectancy is 68 years. If somebody is born in India, at the time of birth, if nothing untoward happens with him or her, he or she is expected to live up to 68 years. And this is called his life expectancy. And the longer life expectancy depends upon access to health facilities. Larger the health facilities you have, larger the nutritional food you have, you can live longer. Better environment you live, you can live longer. Delhi is the most polluted city of the world. We are living here. We cannot expect to live up to 90 years. In Japan, the average life expectancy 92 years. South Korea, 89 years. US, 85 years. For India, it is 68 years. Because the life expectancy depends upon many things. Many things. First is the accessibility to health services. Accessibility to quality health services, which is not available with us today, particularly in rural areas. We have a primary health center which are lying vacant. वहाँ गाय भैंस चल रही हैं उसके अंदर. No doctor, no medicine, nothing. And in government hospitals, huge rush. Corporate hospital, everybody cannot afford. Therefore, accessibility to quality health service is very, very limited in India. The overall environment in which we are living is worst. In terms of pollution, carbon emission, worst. Accessibility to drinking water is also worst. Without RO के आप पानी पी नहीं सकते, पी लिया तो आपको प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी. और यूके में गया, यूएस गया, वहाँ कोई आरओ का सिस्टम ही नहीं है. तो पूछते हैं व्हाट इज आरओ, उन्हें पता ही नहीं आरओ क्या है. डायरेक्ट ड्रिंक द वाटर फ्रॉम द टैप, बिकॉज सच ए गुड क्वालिटी वाटर इज कमिंग इन द टैप. बट हियर द गवर्नमेंट water which is coming in the tap is worst. Sometimes color is different. Unless you just purify it, you can't drink it. You can't drink it. Similarly, the other environment, nutritional food. Are we getting nutritional food? Are we getting nutritional food? Nobody knows. तो किसी ने assess ही नहीं किया कि whatever food we are taking, is it nutritional or some lacking is there. Nobody has assessed because we are not very conscious about the food we are taking. Whatever is cooked at home, you are eating. You are not assessing whether it is nutritional or not. Therefore, the expected life will depend upon access to basic minimum services. Access to basic minimum services, which is lacking in India. Therefore, that's why our life expectancy is 68 years. In other countries, this is 90, 92. Scandinavian countries is 100. Scandinavian countries is up to 100. They are a very small country, but life expectancy is very long because they are living in a very good environment. Very good environment. Therefore, the first point is the healthy and long life. Second is the knowledge, acquisition of knowledge. Acquisition of knowledge. Acquisition of knowledge. How much knowledge we acquire during our school going period. Here we are not concerned with the college, school going period. That is 12 years period. 12 years period. If we are expected to complete the school, you have to be in the school for 12 years. What you leave in between, obviously number of years of schooling is reduced. Therefore, the UNDP is collecting the data both. What is the mean years of schooling in the country? What is the expected years of schooling? Expected years of schooling in India is 12. आपको 12वीं तक आपका जो है सीनियर सेकेंडरी तक स्कूल है. So 12 years we have to spend in the school. Average mean years is less than 12, hardly 6 years. It means majority of the people don't complete even school education. And third is standard of living. Third is standard of living. Standard of living. Standard of living. Measured in terms of per capita income. Per capita income measured at PPP level. Third indicator UNDP has taken the per capita income, which is the indicator of the standard of living. Higher the per capita income, higher the standard of living is expected. But per capita income is measured at PPP level. What is PPP level? हाँ जी, क्या है? What is this? हैं? कोई बताए ढंग से क्या? What is purchasing power parity? Why it is required? और कोई? Why it is required? It is required because the prices prevailing in different countries are different. The value of currency of each country is different. And we have to convert them at a common level. Suppose burger is sold in India at 80 rupees and same burger is sold in US $1. Exchange rate is 80 rupees equal to $1. Then it is purchasing power parity. Then it is purchasing power parity. Price level is same in both the countries, no matter what is the value of the currency. But if it is not, suppose in India it is sold at 100 rupees and in US it is sold at $1. It means inflation in India is more than the inflation in US. You have to make the adjustment in the prices. And the adjustment has to be made to arrive again at purchasing power parity. You have to reduce the value of rupee so that it can buy only burger at which it is sold in the US. Getting your point? So therefore, purchasing power parity is required because of differences in the prices prevailing in the different countries. And we multiply the currency by the foreign prices divided by the domestic prices. That will give you always the purchasing power parity price in a country. So the three measures are taken, but these three measures are measured in different terms. Different terms. The unit is different है. इनको आपको combine करके एक figure में convert करना है. Therefore, we have to convert them into indexes. We have to convert into indices. So therefore, what UNDP has done? UNDP has done by defining the dimensions. By defining the dimensions. नहीं दूसरे PPT में. By defining the dimensions. दूसरा PPT मैडम एक ऑल्टरनेटिव इंडिकेटर्स करके भी PPT है. हाँ मैं दे रखा है शायद, नहीं तो आप पेन ड्राइव से ले लो. they have converted into dimensions. For example, they have defined the minimum age and maximum age. Minimum age is 20 years. They have taken the data of international level and they found minimum age in any of the country is 20 years. maximum average is 85 years. Maximum, minimum, you know. Now, what is your actual age in your country? Suppose 66. 66 is the actual age. When you calculate the indices, maximum minus actual divided by maximum minus minimum. When you do this exercise, you will get a age in index form. Age in the index form. Age in the index form. Index form. And all the three indices are converted in the same way. Are converted in the same way. मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ इसमें. The table has prepared by the UNDP, giving the maximum values and minimum values. Maximum values and minimum values. Then you have to find out alternative indicators करके PPT है इसमें. Alternative indicators. हाँ जी. है. Alternative indicators करके है. बंद कर देते हैं. इस पे आ गया. तो because हाँ जी, ऑनलाइन के क्वेश्चन बाद में लूँगा मैं एट द एंड. टाइम हो गया क्या? है भी टाइम? तो ठीक है, एट द एंड डिस्कस करके आई टेक अप दी ऑनलाइन क्वेश्चंस. पंद्रह मिनट और लगेंगे इसमें. ये वाला हटा दो इसकी. ठीक है, चलो ना. 3 नंबर. ये ठीक है. You see, this is the table. All the three indicators, these are called 3 dimensions of human development. 3 dimensions, that is life expectancy, acquisition of knowledge, and standard of living. So we convert it into the indices. Normalize करना है ना, different units में. कोई years में है, कोई rupees में है. They have to be normalized into single unit. अभी तो उनको aggregate करोगे आप. So for that, UNDP has defined the minimum and maximum values for each indicator. Life expectancy is defined 20 or 85. Minimum is 20, maximum is 80. Expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling is 0 and maximum is 18. In our case, this is 12. National income per capita, minimum is 100, maximum $75,000. Now, to calculate the indices, what? जी कहाँ पे? Purchasing power parity dollar terms. Dollar is last. You calculate this. actual value minus minimum value divided by maximum value minus minimum value. For each parameter, we apply this, and we get a dimension index. For example, the life expectancy. Actual value is 68 in our case. Minimum value is 20. Maximum value 85. Minus 20. Whatever will come will be the dimension index for life expectancy. Dimension index for life expectancy. Now, it will give you where you are placed in the range of 20 to 85. Ultimately, it will give you where the India is placed between 20 to 85 in terms of index. Similarly, we calculate for health and education. So, we have 3 dimension indices have been arrived, and once we have arrived these 3, we take the geometric mean of the 3. Arithmetic mean is geometric mean of the 3, and geometric mean of the 3 dimension indices will give you the HDI. Value of which will be on the 0 to 1 scale. 0 to 1 scale. If HDI is 0, no human development, value will be 0. If maximum human development, value will be 1, or you are somewhere between 0 to 1. Therefore, if you are having the value 0.8 and above, you are considered to be the highly human development country. Human development is taking place at the maximum possible extent, and middle level is 7 to 0.799, lower level is 0.550, 0.699. We are here somewhere in third category, and last is 0.550. Therefore, after calculating these HDI, the UNDP publishes the data. What is the ranking of the country in terms of economic growth? And what is the ranking of the country in terms of HDI? As I mentioned other day also, our ranking in terms of economic growth is number 5, because we are the 5th largest economy of the world. But in terms of HDI, our ranking is 130. 130. It means economic growth is not fully translated into economic development. But this is the very simple HDI. ये याद रखिए, ज्योमेट्रिक मीन पता है, अर्थमेटिक मीन, ज्योमेट्रिक मीन सुने होंगे. ज्योमेट्रिक मीन हमेशा वहाँ यूज़ करते हैं जहाँ एवरेजेस और परसेंटेज को एवरेज करना है. ऑलवेज यूज ज्योमेट्रिक मीन, बिकॉज यहाँ ये सारे फिगर इंडेक्स फॉर्म में है. दैट्स व्हाई वी आर यूजिंग ज्योमेट्रिक मीन. The geometric mean of the 3 dimension index will give you the HDI. But this is the HDI which is computed in a very simple form. But it has not taken into account inequality prevailing in the country. Even if our HDI is 0.6, but we are not taken into account impact of the growth on the equality. If economic growth has led to inequality, then the HDI will not be as estimated by HDI. Then it has to be adjusted. It has to be adjusted with the inequality. Therefore, the HDI is modified by adjusting it with the inequality. And in our country, or in most of the Asian countries, gender discrimination is rampant. Therefore, we have to adjust the HDI with gender discrimination. Second adjustment has to be made in the form of gender discrimination. And third adjustment today, which is introduced in latest 2021 UNDP report, is planetary pressure adjusted HDI. Which country is emitting most of the carbon emissions? Their HDI will be discounted. 3 adjustments are made in HDI today. Planetary pressure adjusted. मैं जो कराऊंगा तीनों को. 3 adjustments are made in the HDI. Inequality adjusted, gender discrimination adjusted, and planetary pressure adjusted. 3 indices are computed again by making the adjustment. When you adjust to the inequality, our HDI goes down by 1 percentage point. 1 point से नीचे चला गया, because we have taken into account inequality prevailing in the economy. Similarly, gender discrimination, if you take into account, value of HDI further falls. And if you adjust the HDI with planetary pressures, HDI will further fall. Therefore, HDI in a simple form is not acceptable today. We have to make adjustment in the HDI to arrive at the real situation, whether country is leading to social development, inclusive growth, as well as sustainable development. Because sustainable development requires environment compatibility. That's why in the end, we have also added planetary pressure adjusted HDI. 3 adjustment I will do tomorrow. ठीक है, 15-20 मिनट लगेंगे, it will be over. Tomorrow I will introduce the poverty in India also. Clear? यार इनके क्वेश्चन बताएं. पढ़ देंगे. बोलो, क्वेश्चन पढ़ो अपना. हाँ जी. नहीं, नया वाला डेटा बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, क्योंकि आपके पास 5 लाख कंपनीज का डायरेक्ट डेटा इज अवेलेबल. और दी प्रॉब्लम विद दी नया डेटा इज, इसमें से बहुत सारी कंपनी ऐसी हैं जो शेल कंपनीज कहलाती हैं. दे हैव ओपन देयर ऑफिस समवेयर, मॉरिशियस और नाइजीरिया समवेयर, बट दे आर नॉट प्रोड्यूसिंग एनीथिंग. बट दे आर सबमिटिंग बैलेंस शीट. एंड देयरफॉर the shell companies have to be adjusted. Shell companies have to be removed from the database of the companies. NCA 21 gives the gross data to CSO. CSO is not able to find out which are the shell companies, which are the actual companies. And 1/3 companies are the shell companies. And therefore, the people have raised the objection that the NCA 21 data has to be filtered by someone. We have to remove the number of shell companies. If you don't remove the shell companies, the share of corporate sector will be inflated. Of course, new database is more relevant for estimation of the GDP, but in the new data, one adjustment has to be made in the form of removal of the shell companies, which has to be done by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And then remaining companies data will be used by the CSO. That adjustment has to be, that is being done now. Earlier it was not done, first year, second year, now it is done. Therefore, the new data is more important and more relevant for estimation of the GDP. हाँ जी. देखिए, हाउस होल्ड एक्सपेंडिचर है वट एवर यू कंज्यूम इन द मार्केट. ठीक है, 2015 से पहले आप गोल्ड पे भी खर्च कर रहे हो मार्केट में, यू आर बाइंग द गोल्ड और ज्वेलरी, बट दैट वाज कंसिडर्ड टू बी योर कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर. But in the revised methodology, we have redefined it, and the expenditure done by the household on buying the jewelry is considered to be the capital expenditure. As a result, the capital expenditure figure is inflated. Therefore, this change in definition has enhanced the capital formation. Getting a point? This is the change we have introduced. Institutional के केस में कोई चेंज नहीं हुआ. इंस्टीट्यूशन का जो गोल्ड था पहले भी कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर था, आज भी कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर है. ओनली चेंज इंट्रोड्यूस इन केस ऑफ हाउस होल्ड, एंड दिस मैटर्स अ लॉट इन केस ऑफ इंडिया, बिकॉज यू नो बेटर देन मी दैट वी हैव ए हैबिट ऑफ एक्वायरिंग द ज्वेलरी और गोल्ड. हर एक के घर में 2-4 किलो गोल्ड ऐसे ही मिल जाएगा. देयरफॉर दिस एक्विजिशन ऑफ गोल्ड, government says this is not a consumption, this is the investment. Because why you are keeping so much gold? You are keeping so much gold because that is used as a protection at the time of need. That's why you are holding so much gold, and value of gold is permanently rising, and your assets are rising. Therefore, that's why in case of India, the accumulation in the form of jewelry is very, very high. In other countries, the people don't accumulate in jewelry. They don't wear jewelry basically. But in our case, it is not only jewelry. This is a protection to you at the time of need. तो यहाँ गवर्नमेंट ने कोई सोशल सिक्योरिटी सबको दे नहीं रखी है. कल आपके घर कोई आफत आ गई तो सरकार तो कुछ देगी नहीं. तो यू हैव टू बेयर द आफत ऑन योर ओन. तो यू नीड मनी. अगर आप पैसा नहीं है तो आप गोल्ड निकालोगे, कुछ भी निकालोगे, गोल्ड इमीडिएटली सोल्ड ऑफ इन द मार्केट. घर तो बिकेगा नहीं इतनी जल्दी. Therefore, the people hold the gold as a accumulation or as a protector in the time of need. लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने उसको अब कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर ट्रीट कर दिया. एज ए रिजल्ट द कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर फिगर इज इन्फ्लेटेड. और क्या क्वेश्चन है? परचेजिंग पावर पैरिटी में क्या क्वेश्चन है किसी का? लिखा हुआ है इसमें, परचेजिंग पावर पैरिटी. As I said, purchasing power parity concept is required to equate the price differences across the countries. क्योंकि price level prevailing different in the different countries. And unless the prices are equated, the calculation of per capita GDP will not be comparable. Therefore, for making the comparisons, we have to have the estimation of GDP or GDP per capita at PPP level. You have to make certain adjustment in calculation of the GDP per capita. और क्या क्वेश्चन है? और क्या लास्ट में क्या क्वेश्चन लिखा है? अच्छा, देखिए यहाँ सिस्टम कुछ डिफरेंट है. तो मैंने पहले पढ़ाया राहुल में, वो सिस्टम को डिफरेंट है. यहाँ पे ऑनलाइन जो बच्चे हैं उनके क्वेश्चन विल बी टेकन अप एट द एंड. इन अदर केसेस वी डायरेक्टली इंटरेक्ट विद देम. यहाँ बिकॉज ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूट पॉलिसी वी आर नॉट इंटरेक्टिंग डायरेक्टली, बट यू आर फ्री टू राइट एज मेनी क्वेश्चन एज यू कैन. कल मुझे किसी ने 17 पेज क्वेश्चन के लिख के भेजे हैं. ऑनलाइन है ऑफलाइन है मुझे पता नहीं. ऑनलाइन वाले होंगे, वो सॉफ्ट कॉपी भेजी है किसी ने, ऑब्वियसली ऑनलाइन से होगा. लेकिन इतने सारे क्वेश्चन एक साथ लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं, वो सारे काट दिए मैंने. आप एक दो क्वेश्चन चेक करा लो तो आपको आइडिया लग जाएगा व्हाट आई एक्सपेक्ट फ्रॉम यू, व्हाट यूपीएससी एक्सपेक्ट फ्रॉम यू. अब आपने 8 क्वेश्चन एक साथ लिख दिए, 8 रबिश मैंने काट दिए, बेकार हो गई आपकी मेहनत. Therefore, we don't write so many questions at one time. धीरे धीरे 3-4 असाइनमेंट में you will come to know how the answers to be written. मैं एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहा कि पहली बार में आप परफेक्ट हो जाओगे आंसर राइटिंग में, बट आफ्टर डूइंग 3-4 असाइनमेंट्स you will start learning how to respond to the question. अभी बहुत कमियां हैं. कमियां ऑब्वियसली एक्सपेक्टेड भी हैं. यू आर नॉट सपोज टू बी ए मास्टर, बट यू हैव टू लर्न द स्किल ऑफ राइटिंग द आंसर्स. उसके बिना पास नहीं हो सकते आप कितना ही पढ़ लो सारे साल. 3 घंटे में क्या लिख के आओगे वहाँ पे, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. तो 3 घंटे में लिखने के लिए हो गया. और कोई क्वेश्चन है किसी का ऑनलाइन? ऑनलाइन एनीबडी हैज क्वेश्चन? बोलो. हैं? वही है, सेम ही है, कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है नया. ठीक है. तो प्लीज़ अगर आपको रियली सक्सीड करना है सिविल सर्विस में, तो आपको आंसर राइटिंग स्किल डेवलप करना पड़ेगा.